Ava, my son's fiancée, called me 3 weeks before the wedding and said, "You make me uncomfortable. We want peace on the wedding day. It's better if you don't come." I was silent for a beat, sitting there with my hands still wet from doing Ethan's laundry. Then I said it. Just one word. "All right." Ava thought she'd won, but what she didn't know was that she'd just made the worst mistake of her life. Guys, please like and subscribe and tell me where you're watching from. Thanks. I didn't tell Ethan. I didn't tell anyone. I just sat there, trying to figure out how I went from planning centerpieces to being erased like a typo. I'd been quiet from the beginning. I'd swallowed 100 small slights to keep the peace. When Ava forgot my birthday, I let it slide. When she called my lasagna a little heavy and offered to bring a gluten-free version for Thanksgiving, I smiled and said that sounded lovely. I even stayed quiet when she told the wedding planner that ivory didn't suit my skin tone and maybe I should consider wearing a darker shade. I paid for the venue, the quartet, the imported orchids she claimed reminded her of her childhood in Bali, though she never could remember which island exactly. I worked 2 jobs to cover her dream wedding while she brushed me off like a chatty Uber driver. And then she uninvited me. Not Ethan, Ava. She didn't even consult him, or if she did, I don't want to know, because the idea that my son would let that happen without protest is worse than if he didn't know at all. I kept moving after that. Cleaned out the guest room, canceled the dress alterations, didn't touch the pile of invoices I still needed to pay off. I told myself this was what motherhood looked like sometimes. Staying silent so your child could be happy, even when it guts you. But the silence didn't sit right. It wasn't the pain of being excluded. It was the way she said it. Cold, final, like she wasn't afraid I'd make a scene. She was afraid I'd see something. That night, after the house went still and the dishwasher hummed like a reminder that I was still useful, I opened my laptop. Not to snoop, I told myself, just to feel a little less erased. I searched for photos of the engagement party, the one I hosted. Ava had barely posted about it. Just one photo and none of me. I kept scrolling. Her profile was mostly curated nonsense, smoothie bowls, beach photos, vague captions about manifesting your best self. But then I hit her older posts. Ones from before Ethan, before the designer wardrobe and the filtered confidence. Her face was the same, but softer. Her smile looked real. And then I saw something that made me stop. I leaned in, blinked, clicked the photo to enlarge it. The caption didn't make sense, and the man beside her definitely wasn't my son. I stared at the photo until my eyes watered. Ava was wearing a white dress, short, simple, not bridal, but close enough. She was standing next to a man I'd never seen before, and they were in front of what looked like a courthouse. The caption said, "Forever starts today." It was dated 3 years ago. I clicked on his username. The account was gone, deleted, or deactivated, but the tag still led to his handle, a David.Santiago. My stomach twisted. I scrolled back up and looked at Ava's face. It was her, no doubt. Younger but unmistakable. Same eyes, same mouth, same overly calculated tilt of the head, but the smile in that photo was different. Real. Soft. Not the rehearsed grin she used now like armor. And this man, David, his arm was around her waist. Their bodies fit like they belonged to each other. I clicked through more posts, trying to find another one with him. There weren't many. Just a few, all from around the same time. Then nothing. No breakup announcement, no sad quotes, just silence. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I also couldn't pretend it didn't feel off. Ethan had never mentioned anyone named David, and Ava sure as hell never talked about him. I told myself I was overreacting. Maybe it was just a serious ex, maybe they'd split up and moved on. But the timing bothered me. So did the fact that Ava had never, not once, spoken about her past. Not even vaguely. Every time I asked something even slightly personal, where she went to school, what her parents did, how long she'd lived in Chicago. She redirected. "Oh, I've lived so many places." Or, "It's kind of a weird family situation." There was always a reason to stay vague. Back then, I thought she was just guarded. Now it felt like she was hiding something. I stared at that photo for a long time. Something about it wouldn't let me go. I opened a new tab and typed in her full name, Ava Bennett Santiago. Nothing useful. Then just Ava Santiago. Then Ava Santiago, marriage. I didn't expect to find anything, honestly. But something pinged. A listing on a site I didn't recognize. It was a registry entry. Minimal info, no photos. Just two names, Ava Marie Santiago and David Elias Santiago. Date, June 2020. My chest went tight. It could have been a coincidence, maybe a relative, a cousin, but I knew better. I knew that look on her face in the photo. I knew the way she dodged questions. This wasn't just a closed chapter. It was a locked vault. And now, she was marrying my son without ever mentioning it. I sat back in my chair and looked around the room. Ethan's old backpack was still hanging on the coat hook, the one he carried all through high school, the lopsided one with the ripped pocket. I'd patched it 3 times before he'd let me replace it. And now, that same boy, my boy, was about to marry someone who might not be who she said she was. I closed the laptop. I didn't have proof yet, just a gut feeling and a trail that was getting warmer. But I knew myself. Once something doesn't sit right, I can't let it go. Not when it comes to Ethan. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed thinking about every conversation I'd had with Ava, every sidestep, every fake smile, every moment she'd made me feel like an outsider in my own family. And now this. She didn't just cut me out of the wedding, she'd done it because she knew I might see through her. That wasn't paranoia. That was instinct, and it had never failed me before. The next morning, I opened my laptop again and started searching. Harder. I wasn't looking for gossip. I wasn't trying to sabotage anything. I just needed the truth. I owed Ethan that much. I clicked back through the photo, saved a screenshot, and opened a new tab. If Ava had been married before, there would be a record. And if that marriage was still legally standing, I didn't finish the thought. I just started digging, slowly, carefully. I wasn't ready to say it out loud yet, but something told me this rabbit hole went deeper than I wanted it to. And I wasn't going to stop until I knew exactly what Ava was hiding and how far she was willing to go to keep me quiet. I didn't tell Ethan I was looking into her. He called that night, casual as ever, asking if I'd seen the updated seating chart Ava sent out. I said I had. He didn't ask how I felt about it, didn't even seem to notice that I wasn't invited anymore. I could hear her in the background, laughing at something. The sound made my skin tighten. It was too smooth, too placed, like everything else about her. I kept my voice light, asked about the caterer, asked if he needed help with anything. He said no, they had it covered. Then he hung up. I stared at the phone for a while after that. I wanted to believe he didn't know, that maybe she'd made the decision on her own, but Ethan wasn't stupid. He'd just stopped asking the right questions, and I wasn't sure if that was love, denial, or both. The next morning, I took the day off work and started making a list. Everything I knew, everything I didn't. I made a folder on my desktop labeled Ava Personal and dropped the Instagram screenshots in first, then the registry record. Then I started searching for court records. I wasn't sure what I'd find. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. Public records are messy, slow, inconsistent. But sometimes they tell stories people think they've buried. I searched county by county, cross-referenced names. Every time I hit a dead end, I got more convinced I was on the right track. Ava had erased something. That much I was sure of. And people only scrub the past that hard when they're hiding something dangerous. It took hours before I found it. A marriage license, Ava Marie Santiago and David Elias Santiago, Camden County, issued June 12, 2020. No divorce record attached. None. I sat back, heart thudding. This wasn't speculation anymore. She wasn't just secretive. She was still married. Still legally bound to someone else while planning a wedding with my son. I printed the record, highlighted the date, circled the name. Then I opened a second tab and searched for David Santiago. It was harder than I expected. No social media. No current job listings, no address. It was like he'd disappeared. But the photo from Instagram was clear. He existed. He had a face, a name, a connection. I had a feeling she made him disappear and paid him to stay gone. It wasn't just a hunch. It was the way she handled things, quietly, efficiently. She didn't yell, she erased, just like she erased me. I got up, grabbed the wedding binder I'd been building for months, and flipped to the payment records. My handwriting was all over it. Notes about deposits, balances due, dates Ava had said were urgent. It looked like a planner's workbook, but it was a receipt of my silence. I'd paid to be excluded. And now, I was about to pay for the truth. I sat down again and searched for one more thing: warehouse jobs in Camden. I didn't know why exactly, just a memory. One of Ava's. Vague answers when I asked about where she used to live. I had a rough time in Camden for a bit, she'd said. It's where I learned to hustle. It hadn't meant anything then. It did now. I found a job listing from a logistics company posted 6 months ago. A temp job. The supervisor's name was listed. I called, asked if they'd had a David Santiago work there in the last year. I expected a no. But the guy said, "Yeah, we did. Don't think he's here anymore, though." That was enough. I asked for the address. Said I was an old friend. He gave it to me without hesitation. I wrote it down. I didn't know what I was going to say if I found him. I didn't even know what I wanted him to do. All I knew was that if he was still legally tied to Ava, Ethan deserved to know. And I wasn't going to sit back while he married a stranger, with secrets stacked higher than the centerpieces she'd picked out. I folded the court record, slid it into a manila folder, and grabbed my keys. If David Santiago was real, and if he was willing to talk, then I was driving to Camden in the morning. And if he wasn't, if Ava had buried him so deep no one could find him, then I'd know exactly what kind of woman my son was about to marry. Either way, the silence was over. The drive to Camden was 4 hours, mostly highway, mostly flat, with too much time to think. I didn't play music, didn't call anyone, just kept one hand on the wheel and the other on the manila folder resting on the passenger seat. Inside it, the marriage license, the Instagram photo, a printout of the warehouse job listing, and a sticky note with the name David Santiago scrawled in block letters. I didn't know what I expected to find. Maybe some guy in a nice apartment, remarried, moved on, confused about why some woman from Chicago was knocking on his door. Maybe someone who'd lie for Ava, maybe no one at all. I'd been in enough dead ends in my life to know how to drive straight through them. But I also knew what it felt like when something was real, and this wasn't a dead end. This was a crack in the wall. The address I'd gotten led to a duplex, half-painted, windows. Fogged with dirt, a for rent sign peeling on the door next to it. I parked across the street, checked the number twice, then crossed with the folder in hand. I knocked. Once. Twice. The sound of movement. A pause. Then the door opened just enough to reveal him. Sweatpants, unshaven, hoodie pulled up halfway. He looked like he hadn't been outside in days. But it was him. David Santiago. I knew the face from the photo. I could have picked him out of a crowd. "David?" I said. He didn't nod, didn't answer, just looked at me like he was waiting for me to give him a reason to close the door. "My name is Sarah," I said. "I think we need to talk." Still nothing. I held up the folder. "It's about Ava." That did it. His eyes flicked to the folder, then back to my face. I could see it all happen in a flash. Recognition, panic, resignation. He opened the door wider. "What do you want?" he asked. "To talk," I said. "Just 5 minutes." He let me in. The place smelled like instant noodles and old carpet, a mattress on the floor, one chair, no decorations, no TV, just silence and a clock that had stopped working. He sat on the edge of the mattress. I stayed standing. "She's marrying my son," I said. "Next weekend." That got him. He blinked. "Your son?" "Ethan. She's been with him for about 2 years. She told me he was a client, that she was consulting or something. She told him she's never been married." David laughed, short, sharp, tired. "Of course she did." I opened the folder, pulled out the marriage license, and handed it to him. He didn't even flinch, just looked at it and said, "Yeah, that's us." "You're not divorced?" I asked. "No. She paid me to disappear." That stopped me. She, "What? $10,000. Said she'd ruin me if I ever showed up again. I'd lost my job, got evicted. She found me in a motel and said I was holding her back, that she had plans. Gave me the cash and told me to vanish." "And you did? What do you think?" He said, gesturing to the bare walls. "I needed the money." I didn't speak right away. I sat down, folder still in my lap. "She cut me out of the wedding," I said. "Said I make her uncomfortable. That she wants peace." David shook his head. "She's terrified someone will blow her cover. That's what she does. She builds these perfect versions of herself, then runs when the truth catches up." So this wasn't just some early mistake. This was calculated. "She's always calculating," he said. "She's good at it. Too good." I looked at him. Really looked at him. He wasn't just worn down, he was hollowed out. Like whatever Ava did to him hadn't just ruined his life, it had taken something internal with it. And now she was setting up the same game again with my son. "I need you to come with me," I said. "To the wedding. Tell the truth." His head snapped up. "No, no way," she said. "She said a lot of things, but this isn't about her. It's about Ethan. He doesn't know. He has no idea who he's marrying, and if you don't tell him, she's going to keep doing this. You think he'll believe me? Not if it's just you. But I have everything. The papers. The photos, your statement, it'll be enough." "Why should I?" he asked. "Why should I get involved again just to get burned?" I opened my bag and took out a checkbook, wrote the number down, handed it to him. 20,000 for 1 day, one truth. He stared at it like it was radioactive. "You're serious?" "Dead serious." He didn't speak, just held the check, hands shaking slightly. I didn't push. I let the silence work. Eventually, he looked up. "If I do this," he said slowly, "we do it my way." "Deal." He nodded once. The kind of nod people give when they know there's no going back. I stood up, closed the folder, and walked to the door. "I'll pick you up at 9, I said. "Don't be late." The morning of the wedding, I woke up before my alarm. I didn't eat, didn't drink coffee. I just sat at the edge of my bed, staring at the dress I'd planned to wear before I was uninvited. It was simple, navy, tailored, sleeves just long, enough to feel elegant. I hadn't bought anything new. Couldn't stomach the idea of spending $1 more on this disaster. I pressed the hem smooth, zipped it up, and looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't look angry. I looked resolved. Like a woman who knew exactly what she was about to do and why she had to do it. At 8:57, I parked outside David's apartment. He was already outside, wearing a wrinkled dress shirt and the same beaten shoes he'd had on 2 days earlier. I handed him a tie when he got in the car. "Borrowed it from my neighbor's kid," I said. He nodded, didn't speak. The drive was quiet, not tense, just focused. Like we were heading into a job that needed to be done cleanly. The wedding was at a country club 30 minutes outside the city. Ava's dream location, chandeliers, imported marble floors, a string quartet playing something designed to make guests feel richer just by being there. I recognized some of the vendors as I pulled in. people I'd written checks to, people who now looked past me like I didn't exist. I didn't flinch. We weren't here to be seen. We were here to end. David stayed close as we walked up the stone steps. His hand clenched around the folder I gave him. Inside, the marriage certificate, the screenshots, everything. I had my own copy tucked in my purse, backup, just in case. No one stopped us. No one even questioned why we were there. That's the thing about places like this. People assume you belong if you walk like you do. The ceremony hadn't started yet. Guests were milling around, taking photos in front of a flower arch I'd paid $1,600 for. I spotted Ava before she spotted me. She was standing with her bridesmaids laughing, that too smooth laugh, that calculated lightness. Her dress was flawless, makeup like a magazine spread. But her eyes flicked around like she was looking for exits. When she saw me, everything changed. The laugh stopped mid-breath. Her shoulders locked. Her smile froze. Then she saw David. Her mouth opened. No sound. Just panic, plain and unfiltered. A bridesmaid asked something. Ava didn't answer. She just turned and walked, fast, toward the back of the venue. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. We weren't here for a backstage fight. We were here for the moment she couldn't control. David looked at me. She's going to try something. Let her. We waited in the back until the music started. Guests began filing in, taking their seats. The quartet switched to a classical version of something pop. I didn't recognize it. I wasn't listening. The officiant stepped up. Guests hushed. I scanned the room. No one noticed us yet. Ethan came out from the side door, adjusted his tie, smiled nervously. My heart ached. He looked so young, so sure, so ready for a life that didn't exist. Then Ava walked in. She'd fixed her face, smiled like nothing was wrong, glided down the aisle with practiced grace. Her hands didn't shake. Her eyes didn't flinch. But she never looked toward the back. She never looked for me. Like if she didn't see us, we weren't real. The officiant welcomed everyone, thanked them for coming, spoke about love, partnership, trust. Then he said the words, "If anyone here has a reason why these two should not be joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace." I stepped forward. So did David. Gasps, a few murmurs. I walked straight down the aisle, slow, calm, eyes forward. David followed, the folder in his hand. Ethan's smile vanished. Ava's hands dropped to her sides. The officiant froze. A bridesmaid whispered, "What the hell is happening?" I stopped 3 feet from my son and said, "Ethan, I need you to look at this." And I held out the folder. Ethan didn't move at first, just stared at the folder like it might explode. His hands were at his sides, fingers twitching slightly, the way they always did when he was trying to stay calm. I didn't say another word. I just waited. Ava didn't. "What is this?" she said, her voice tight, aimed like a dart. "Why are you doing this?" I didn't answer her. I never looked at her. Ethan took the folder. He opened it slowly, like each page might cut him. The first document, the marriage license. I saw his eyes stop, read, reread. His lips moved without sound. Then he flipped to the second page, screenshots of Ava's Instagram post, the courthouse photo, her caption. Then the background check. Then the missing divorce filing. Then the last photo, Ava and a little girl smiling. The one she'd told Ethan was her cousin's child. David stepped forward, his voice quiet but solid. "That's my daughter," he said. "And Ava's. She told me to disappear 3 years ago, paid me 10 grand to stay quiet so she could move on without paperwork." The room went silent, like someone had sucked the air out through the chandeliers. No one moved. The officiant looked frozen in place. Ethan didn't speak. He just kept staring at the photo, his jaw clenched, shoulders locked. He looked like a statue someone had cracked through the middle. Ava took a step forward, desperate now. "This is insane," she said. "He's lying. He's been obsessed with me for years. He's trying to ruin my life. Why would you listen to him?" She turned to me then, sharp and shaking. "You planned this. You've always hated me. You're jealous. You can't handle him loving someone more than you." I didn't move, didn't blink, didn't give her the fight she wanted. "You lied," Ethan said. His voice was low, controlled, scary in a way I'd never heard before. "You lied about everything." Ava reached for his hand. He stepped back. "I did it for us," she said. "I wanted a clean start. That marriage meant nothing. He meant nothing. I was trying to protect you from baggage that wasn't yours." David laughed once, bitter and tired. "That's our daughter," he said again. "You told me she was going to live with your aunt while you rebuilt your brand. You said she'd get in the way of the kind of life you were planning." A murmur rolled through the guests, small at first, then building. Chairs creaked. Someone stood up in the back. Ava looked around, panic leaking through the seams of her makeup. "This isn't what it looks like," she said. "I swear to God." "Stop," Ethan said. Just that. One word. Firm. Final. She froze. His voice had no anger in it. No yelling. Just a sharp edge that said, "This is over." He turned to the officiant. "We're done here." Then he turned to me. "Let's go." That's when it hit me. Not just what had happened. Not just that we'd stopped it. But that he believed me. He chose truth over denial. Reality over the fantasy Ava had built. We walked out together, David behind us. The guests didn't know what to do. Some followed, others stayed frozen, unsure if it was real or some elaborate prank. It was real. And it was done. I didn't say a word on the way out. I didn't need to. Ethan was walking beside me, the folder still in his hand, his face unreadable. The guests cleared a path, whispering like we were some scandal headline come to life. Ava's family didn't move. Her mother looked like she'd seen a ghost. Her father wouldn't even make eye contact. We stepped into the sunlight, and I finally let my shoulders drop. Just a little, enough to breathe again. At the car, David stopped. "I'm not trying to stay involved," he said. "I did what I said I'd do. That's it." I nodded. "And you held up your end. Thank you." He handed me back the tie, said nothing else, and walked off down the sidewalk like a man who had finally been allowed to leave the past behind. I slid into the driver's seat, looked over at Ethan. He hadn't spoken since the altar. His hands were on his knees, eyes forward. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded once. "I think I knew," he said finally. "Not all of it, but something. I just didn't want to be wrong about her, about the life I thought I was building." I didn't offer comfort, not yet. He wasn't ready. We drove in silence, and when I dropped him off at his apartment, he just said, "Thanks, Mom." That was it. Not emotional, not dramatic, just clean. The next morning, I opened the wedding binder one last time. I went line by line: caterer, quartet, photographer, venue, brunch reservation, signature cocktail artist. Every single one was booked in my name. Everyone paid with my card. I spent the entire afternoon on the phone. I told them the wedding was canceled. Not postponed, canceled. No one questioned it. They all had cancellation clauses. Refunds weren't full, but they were enough. I pulled every payment that hadn't fully cleared. Called the credit card company on the few that had. It took hours, but by the end of the day, the brunch was off. The open bar was pulled. The band was out. I even canceled the post-wedding day spa appointments she'd snuck onto my account 2 weeks ago. I didn't yell, didn't post online, didn't call her family to explain. I just erased what I'd built, line by line, until nothing of her wedding existed anymore. Ava didn't reach out. Not that day. Not the day after. I assumed she tried to scramble, tried to rebook, beg, explain. But her name wasn't on anything. She hadn't lifted a finger. She thought the money made her untouchable. But the money was mine. And now it was gone. Just like her illusion. I didn't do it to punish her. I did it to reclaim the part of myself I'd handed over while trying to keep the peace. Because peace bought through silence isn't peace. It's captivity. And I wasn't going to live like that anymore. Ethan didn't call for 3 weeks. No texts, no emails. Just silence. And I didn't chase him. I knew what that quiet meant. Not anger, not blame, just shock. The kind of emotional wreckage that doesn't make noise. It just sits in the room, heavy and still, until someone's ready to move again. I cleaned the house, went back to work, took a shift I didn't need at the library just to keep my hands busy. I didn't talk about it. Not to my sister, not to the florist who kept calling about the unclaimed centerpiece vases. I just kept my mouth shut and waited for the dust to settle. That's the thing about being a mother. You get used to waiting in rooms where your child doesn't know how to speak to you yet. Then, one Sunday, I came home from the store and found a brown paper bag on my porch. Inside, a container of my favorite chicken soup from a deli halfway across town. No note, no name, but I knew. A week later, a text. "Do you still have my old toolkit?" I did. I left it on the porch. He came by after I'd gone to bed. I heard the screen door close, heard the steps creak. That was it. Nothing more. 2 weeks later, he called, just to ask if I'd seen a certain screwdriver in the box. I hadn't, but we stayed on the phone for a few minutes anyway, talked about the weather, about a weird client email he'd gotten. Then we hung up. It was like that for a while, one breadcrumb at a time. He didn't apologize. And I didn't ask him to. I didn't want the words. I wanted the effort. And slowly, it came. He started showing up on Sundays, brought coffee, helped fix a loose cabinet hinge, stayed long enough to ask how I was sleeping. I didn't push. I didn't bring up Ava. I didn't ask what he was feeling. I just let him be there. That was enough. One night, he brought a girl with him, said they were just friends. Her name was Lena, nonprofit lawyer. Wore her hair in a braid and brought a bottle of wine she'd actually researched to pair with the pasta I was making. When dinner was done, she helped clear the plates without being asked. Wiped the counter. Asked about the photo of Ethan in 3rd grade that still hangs by the fridge. She looked at him when he talked, not to perform listening, but to actually hear him. And when she asked about me, her questions weren't polite. They were curious, real, and I watched Ethan soften. Not impress, just exist. It was the first time I saw him breathe in someone's presence. And that's when I knew. Whatever Ava had been, Lena wasn't. She wasn't perfect. She wasn't polished. She was present. And that was worth more than all the chandeliers in the world. They got married in my backyard. No stage, no chandelier, no imported orchids. Just folding chairs I borrowed from the church down the street, a string of lights from the garage, and a white sheet hung from the porch railing because Lena said it reminded her of summers at her grandmother's. Ethan built the arch himself, sanded it, stained it, hauled it across town in the back of a borrowed truck. Lena wore a simple dress, no train, no veil, no designer label. She walked barefoot across the grass and smiled at me like we were already family. I made the food, poured the wine, baked the cake with a cracked edge and a lopsided top layer no one cared about. Their vows were handwritten, short, clumsy, real. No metaphors, just stories, promises that didn't sound rehearsed. And when Ethan turned to me before the ceremony and said, "Will you walk me down the aisle?" I almost couldn't move. Not because I was shocked, but because part of me had stopped believing I'd ever be fully seen again. We didn't talk. About Ava. Didn't need to. That chapter was done. Everyone there knew what this day was about. Not perfection, not image, not control. But love, the kind that bends, that waits, that fights quietly when it has to. Lena took my hand after the vows, looked me in the eye and said, "Thank you for raising the man I get to love." No music swelled, no slow camera pan, just that. A simple sentence that made the whole fight, the silence, the drive to Camden, the folder, the crash, worth it. Not because I won, but because the truth finally had a seat at the table. That night, after everyone left, I sat on the back steps, in my bare feet, drinking leftover wine from a mason jar and listening to the quiet. Not the empty kind, the earned kind, the kind that comes after something real. I didn't get a thank you card from Ava. Never heard from her again. Don't care if I do. She's a footnote now. A woman who tried to rewrite the truth and got erased by her own edits. Ethan's happy. Lena's real. And I'm not just the mother anymore. I'm the witness, the survivor, the proof. That love doesn't mean silence. That peace can be loud if you fight for it the right way. That sometimes the best revenge is not being right, but being remembered. That's it for today. What would you have done in her place? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I love reading what you all think. And hey, if this story hit you, check out these videos too. You won't want to miss them.